Welcome to the Sky Commander Flight Brief. It's your mission-ready podcast for drone pilot training and aerial insights across Canada.
From Transport Canada rules to real-world drone ops, we break it down, take you higher, and help you earn your wings. Because here at skycommander.ca, we don't just fly.
It hints there's more to it. It's a masterclass, a deeper level, maybe a philosophy or a community focus, perhaps.
It's definitely intriguing, sets them apart from just, a basic tips show. Skycommander.ca is the obvious next step. Precisely. If you're thinking about flying a drone in Canada, boom, this content is aimed right at you.
Powered by skycommander.ca.
The elite podcast for Canada's drone pilot. Okay, let's get started. Today, we are stripping it all back. We're taking away the gear, the cool edits, the high energy music and the Instagram likes.
All the flashy stuff.
We're going to talk about that really uncomfortable reality of, standing in a muddy field, holding a controller. You're looking up at a drone that's just a tiny dot in the sky. And you realize with this pit in your stomach, you have absolutely no idea what you're doing.
That moment, yeah. I know that exact feeling. The source calls it drift. And it's a physical sensation, isn't it? It's that sudden cold clarity that you are way in over your head.
It is. It totally is. And we're giving it a name today that comes from the source material, training by mood. It's this trap that I think, honestly, probably 90% of drone pilots fall into. I've been there myself.
Oh, me too. Absolutely.
You watch a tutorial on, say, cinematic reveals on a Tuesday because it looks fun. Then on Wednesday, you're watching a 40-minute video on photogrammetry because that looks, lucrative.
Right.
You feel smarter. You feel like you're leveling up your skills. But then you get a paid gig or even just a serious personal project where there are actual stakes involved, and you freeze up.
Because you've been consuming, not training. That's the core distinction here. You have a lot of knowledge, sure. You probably know what all the buttons do. But you don't have a system.
A system.
Yeah, and the gap between knowing how a stick move works in theory and executing a safe, legal, and effective mission under real-world pressure it's massive.
It's like the difference between watching a cooking show on Netflix and actually running a commercial kitchen during the Friday night dinner rush.
That's a perfect analogy.
Exactly.
One is entertainment, the other is pure operations.
And that's what we're aiming to solve today. We're looking at a whole stack of documents, but they're all centered around this framework called Mission Ready. The whole goal here is to help you move from being what they call a shot chaser. Someone who's just hunting for a pretty picture to post online.
Chasing the likes.
To becoming a mission owner.
A mission owner. I really like that term. It implies responsibility. It implies a professional identity, not just, a hobbyist with some really expensive toys. A mission owner delivers a specific result, and they do it repeatedly, safely, and legally, no matter how they feel on that particular day.
And before we get deep into the psychology of this, and believe me, there is a lot of psychology here, I just want to plant a flag in the timeline. The source material we're working with is very, very specific about the regulatory landscape we're in. We are talking about the reality of late 2025 and heading into early 2026.
That is crucial context. If you're listening to this and you're still thinking about the rules from 2023, you are already way behind the curve.
We're talking about things like the reopening of the FAA's BVLOS, that's Beyond Visual Line of Sight, the NPRM comment period that just hit in January of 2026.
Yep.
We're also talking about the major regulatory shifts in Canada, especially around advertised events that fully landed in 2025. This isn't a Wild West conversation anymore.
Not at all. The walls have closed in. The systems are much tighter. And frankly, if you're still flying like it's 2020, you're not just an amateur. You're basically a liability just waiting to happen.
The era of fly first, ask for forgiveness later.
Oh, that's dead. It's over.
Yeah.
The regulatory environment now demands that you prove you're safe before you even think about taking the lens cap off. The authorities, we're talking the FAA, Transport Canada, they've moved from a phase of education to a phase of enforcement.
Right.
So this framework isn't just about getting better shots. It's about keeping your license, your insurance, and your business afloat.
So the antidote to this whole training by mood problem is a concept the source calls the next season approach. I absolutely love this because it gives us permission to be narrow. It acknowledges that we can't be everything to everyone all at once.
It's the only way to manage the sheer overwhelm. I mean, look at the drone industry right now. You've got thermal imaging, multispectral, FPV, heavy lift cinema rigs, inspection, mapping, LiDAR. I mean, the list goes on and on. If you try to learn all of that at once, you will be mediocre at everything.
You'll be the classic jack of all trades, master of none.
And in aviation, master of none usually translates to crash risk. It's just not a place where you want to be dabbling.
So walk us through it. How does this next season approach actually work in practice?
It's actually a pretty simple metaphor. Treat your career development like a TV show. Season 1 might have been learning to fly line of sight safely. Season 2 could be mastering basic photogrammetry. Season 3 might be advanced night operations.
Okay.
You commit to one single narrative arc for, say, 3 to 6 months. You don't jump genres in the middle of the season. You don't decide in episode 4 that your mapping drama is suddenly going to become an FPV action movie.
You don't renew the show until you've aired the finale.
That's it, exactly. You build towards what the source calls a capstone, a final tangible project that proves you've actually mastered that specific skill set. Then and only then do you give yourself permission to pivot to the next thing.
So it stops you from being that person who buys a $5,000 thermal camera, uses it once, realizes how complex the analysis is.
Right. Gets frustrated.
And then goes out and buys an FPV drone the next week to chase that new exciting dopamine hit.
It creates focus.
Yeah.
And that's what's missing for so many people.
What really stuck with me is how it reframes winging it. It turns winging it from some kind of character flaw into just a data point. We usually feel so much shame when we know we're winging it. We try to hide it.
The source argues that that feeling, that winging it feeling, is just a signal. It's a dashboard light coming on. It's not a moral failing. It just means you lack a repeatable system for that specific scenario.
Right.
And that's the difference. The professional doesn't rely on talent. They rely on defensibility. If something goes wrong on a mission, can you stand up and defend your actions? Do you have a plan? Did you follow a procedure? That's all the boring stuff we're going to get into.
So the goal isn't to never feel unsure.
No, absolutely not. The goal is to recognize that feeling as a trigger and then go and build a system to fix the underlying problems so you don't feel that way next time.
Okay, let's break this down for everyone. We've got 6 main sections to get through to build out this entire mission-ready framework. We're going to start with what they call the mirror, which is all about diagnosing who you actually are as a pilot.
Then the skills audit, which is like a truth serum for your abilities.
From there, we'll pick a track or a specialty. Then we'll build a training framework for that track. Then we'll tackle the boring stuff, the regulations and pressure management that can save your career.
And we'll finish with the secret weapon, the mission log. That's where the real learning happens. It's how you convert that feeling of fear into genuine mastery.
I'm excited. Let's start with section 1, the mirror. And this isn't, about looking at your reflection and reciting positive affirmations.
No, not at all. It's about treating your own recent behavior as flight data. It's a diagnostic tool. The source says, look back at your season 6. That's your last, say, 3 to 6 months of flying or even just consuming drone content. What actually happened?
Not what you wanted to happen.
Exactly. Not what you put on your LinkedIn bio. What did you actually do? Where did your time and attention really go?
And one of the first signals they tell you to look for is replays and bookmarks. This is such a clever way to bypass our own ego, isn't it?
It really is. It's forensic. Go through your YouTube history, your saved articles, your browser bookmarks right now as you're listening. What did you watch more than once? What video did you save to watch later, but you've already seen it twice?
That's not random.
It's not random behavior at all.
Mm.
If you watched a 40-minute technical breakdown of a specific photogrammetry software 3 separate times, that's not just casual curiosity. That indicates either a deep obsession or a desperate skill gap that your subconscious is trying to close.
Right. And on the flip side, if you're constantly replaying these insane FPV freestyle videos, the guys diving down the sides of mountains, but you tell everyone you want to be a real estate surveyor.
Your browser history is calling you a liar.
Yeah.
It's forcing you to differentiate between what you think you should do, maybe because you heard it pays well,
yeah,
and what you are naturally magnetically drawn to. Your attention is a currency.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you spending it? That tells you where your natural season 7 should probably go.
Okay, then there's the mental movie test. I've got to say, this one felt like a punch in the gut when I tried it on myself.
It's a stress test for your professional imagination. So pick a mission type that you think you want to do. Let's say cell tower inspection. Now close your eyes. Can you play the entire movie of that mission in your head from start to finish, instantly? And I don't just mean the cool shot of the tower with the dramatic clouds behind it.
You mean the unsexy parts, the boring stuff.
I mean all the boring stuff. Pulling up to the site in your truck, where do you park so you're not in the way? Putting on the correct PPE, the hard hat, the steel-toed boots, the high-vis vest, doing the pre-flight risk assessment, making the radio call to the site manager to get clearance.
The battery swap halfway through?
The battery swap, the data offload process, the client handoff at the end. If the movie in your head goes blank during any of those boring parts,
then it's not really your lane yet.
Exactly. You're a tourist in that world. You like the idea of the mission, but you don't actually know the reality of it. The source makes a great point. If you can't even visualize the parking situation, you are not ready to sell that service as a professional.
Because in the real world, the parking permit and the liability waiver are often a lot harder than the actual flying part.
Infinitely harder.
This all leads to something they call the Not My World list. I found this to be incredibly liberating. It's basically giving yourself permission to say, I respect that, but I'm not doing it.
It's absolutely crucial for maintaining focus. I mean, look, I respect the folks who do FPV cinematography for major motion pictures. It's incredibly impressive. But when I visualize the complexity, the team size, the high-stakes pressure, my body physically reacts. It says, absolutely not.
That's valid data.
It's totally valid data. If you feel a deep internal resistance to the boring parts of a sector like, say, the endless paperwork and liability insurance for flying over crowds at a concert, or the tedious image processing for large-scale mapping projects, put it on your Not My World list, and then stop feeling guilty that you aren't training for it. Free up that mental energy.
It helps you distinguish between what the source calls curiosity versus direction. Curiosity is just thinking, hey, that looks cool.
Right. Direction is, I am willing to suffer through the tedious, boring, and difficult parts of this job to achieve the outcome. That's the real definition of a professional lane. The specific flavor of suffering you are willing to endure.
That's a great way to put it.
If you aren't willing to endure the friction, you don't actually want the career, you just want the highlight reel.
Okay, so speaking of careers, Chapter 2 in the source material gets really deep into what it calls the operator profile. This is where we start to categorize pilots. It's almost like a personality test, but specifically for aviation.
It is. And the biggest, most fundamental axis they identify is axis A, the guardian versus the storyteller.
This feels like the core conflict for so many pilots.
It is. It's the fundamental split in the drone world, and not knowing which one you are by default causes so much internal conflict and, frankly, bad decision-making.
So what's a guardian?
A guardian pilot is, at their core, risk-averse.
Yeah.
Their primary goal is asset protection, data integrity, and compliance. They get their dopamine hit from a completely boring flight.
A boring flight is a good flight.
Yes. If they land the drone and the battery is still at 30%, the flight logs are perfectly clean, and absolutely nothing unexpected happened, that to them is a massive win. They crave predictable, repeatable, systematic boredom.
And the storyteller.
The storyteller's the exact opposite. They are chasing emotion. They want the one shot that makes an audience feel something. They prioritize things like narrative, pacing, the quality of the light. Their dopamine comes from capturing that impossible angle or the moment the sun flares into the lens just right.
They see the drone as a camera that flies?
Exactly. Not an aircraft that happens to have a camera on it. That's a crucial distinction.
And the real conflict, the danger, happens when you don't know which one you are or you let the wrong one take control of the mission.
That's what the source calls identity drift. And it's incredibly dangerous. Storyteller drift is probably the most common and most dangerous. That's when a storyteller starts cutting safety corners to get the shot.
Like, I'll just fly a little closer to those people.
I'll just fly a little closer to that crowd, or I know the battery's low, but I'll just push it to 10% to catch the last bit of the sunset. They are prioritizing the story over the system, and that's how accidents happen.
But there's a guardian drift too, right?
For sure. And that's when you're so focused on safety and compliance that the work becomes sterile and useless. You're tasked with filming a high-energy car chase for a commercial, but you're flying like you're inspecting a bridge.
You're 500 feet up, moving at 5 miles an hour.
Exactly. The footage is technically perfect, perfectly safe, and completely boring. It doesn't meet the client's needs. The key is to know your default setting, because under pressure, when the sun is dropping and the client is yelling in your ear, you will revert to your factory settings. You have to know what those are so you can consciously correct for them and not accidentally break a law or ruin the entire project.
The source material lays out a few other axes too. Axis B is mapping and measurement versus people and events.
This is basically structure versus chaos. Mapping is a solitary pursuit. It's you, the drone, a pre-programmed grid, and usually blessed silence. If you're an introvert who loves precision and data, this is your home. You're fighting the environment. The wind, the sun angle, not people.
And people and events.
That's pure chaos. That's a wedding. That's a live concert. That's a real estate shoot where the client is hovering over your shoulder, staring at your iPad, asking, "Why aren't you flying yet? Can you get closer?" If you hate being watched, if you can't handle pressure from other people, do not become a wedding drone pilot. It will burn you out in less than a month.
And the last one is Axis C, slow burn versus high adrenaline.
This is all about tempo. High adrenaline is public safety. The pager goes off at 2 a.m., you have to be in the air in 3 minutes, and there are potentially lives at stake. Decisions have to happen in microseconds. You don't have time to pull out a manual.
And slow burn.
Slow burn is something like environmental monitoring. You're tracking coastal erosion over a 3-year period. Your job is to fly the exact same flight path at the exact same time of day every single Tuesday. It requires immense patience, consistency, and a high tolerance for boredom.
So if you're an adrenaline junkie,
environmental monitoring will drive you absolutely insane. You'll start trying to do barrel rolls with the survey drone just to feel something. You have to match your personality to the tempo of the work.
Okay, so we've looked in the mirror, we've got a handle on our operator profile, we know what kind of friction we're willing to put up with. Now it's time to drink the truth serum. Section 2, the skills audit.
This is where we have to kill what the source calls the highlight reel lie. And that's the lie that says, because I have 3 seconds of amazing footage on my Instagram reel, I must be a professional. The market doesn't pay for talent alone. It pays for reliability. Can you get the shot or the data when it's windy, when it's starting to rain, when you have a splitting headache and the client is angry and breathing down your neck? That's reliability.
So the audit rates all your skills in 3 distinct buckets: confident, functional, and winging it. But the definition of confident that they use here, it's a really, really high bar. It's not just, I feel good about it.
No, not at all. Confident, according to this framework, means you can do 3 things. 1, you can explain the concept simply to a 5-year-old. 2, you can execute the skill flawlessly under pressure. And 3, this is the real kicker, you can prove it with tangible evidence.
Evidence like?
Logs, data, checklists, saved mission plans, airspace authorizations. The source is brutal on this point. If you can't show me the paperwork, you aren't confident, you're just arrogant.
Okay, so what about functional? Is that just passable?
Functional means you're safe, but you're slow. You absolutely need your checklist. You have to stop and think through each step. Okay, wait, which stick does what again? That's fine for a lot of things. We are all functional at some parts of the job.
And winging it.
Winging. It means you are guessing. You are hoping the software works the way you think it does. You are praying the drone comes back when you hit the return to home button. It's operating on hope.
Let's dig into some of the specific operator-proof standards the source gives, because these are brutal reality checks. For mission planning, the big question is, can you define a containment plan?
This is such a great example. Most pilots, when you ask them about their plan, they'll say, yeah, I plan to fly over there. That is not a plan. That's an intention.
So what's a containment plan?
A containment plan is, if I lose the control link, the drone is pre-programmed to trigger return to home at an altitude of 150 feet. If that fails for some reason, it is programmed to hover in place for 60 seconds. If it begins to fly away, it will encounter this specific geofence I have drawn on the map, which will prevent it from entering the airspace over that busy highway.
So if you haven't drawn that box on the map,
you are winging it. You are essentially just praying that a multi-thousand-dollar piece of technology doesn't fail.
Let's take mapping. It asks about understanding overlap. Do you understand why overlap and consistent speed matter?
It's not enough to say, oh, I set the overlap to 80% because I saw some guy do it in a tutorial. Why 80%? Do you understand that photogrammetry software requires a specific parallax angle between consecutive images to reconstruct 3D geometry?
Probably not.
Do you understand that if you fly too fast at a low altitude, the shutter speed might not be fast enough, causing motion blur, which makes the pixels unrecognizable to the software, and your map will fail? If you can't explain the relationship between speed, altitude, and shutter angle, you are not a mapping professional. You are a button pusher. And when the map inevitably fails, and it will domain, you will have no idea how to troubleshoot it.
For public safety, the question is a tough one. Can you say NO to an incident commander?
This might be the single hardest skill to learn in the entire industry. A fire chief is a commanding figure. They are used to people obeying their orders without question.
Right.
So if they point and tell you, fly the drone into that thick black smoke, I need to see what's happening on the roof, and you know your drone sensors can't handle that heat, or the GPS will fail in that turbulence. Do you have the training and the vocabulary to say, Chief, I cannot fly into the smoke, that's an unacceptable risk, but I can fly a perimeter orbit and use the thermal zoom to get you that data safely?
If you can't say no effectively,
You are a liability on a fire scene. You're going to crash the drone, and now you have just become part of the emergency that they have to manage.
okay, and for utility work, the litmus test is, do you see assets in failure modes, or do you just see cool-looking towers?
Utility companies do not pay for art. They could not care less about the beautiful sunset happening behind the transmission pylon. They're paying you to find cracked insulators, rusted cotter pins, or loose bolts.
The potential points of failure?
Exactly. If you're flying a power line inspection and you don't even know what an insulator looks like, you are just taking pictures. You are not inspecting. You are winging the core value proposition of the job. You're wasting their time and money.
And finally, for the media track, can you define the emotion of the shot before you even fly it?
I'm just going to fly around a bit and see what looks good, is not a professional workflow. That's a hobbyist. A pro says, my first shot will be a low to high reveal to establish the massive scale of this estate, creating a sense of awe and grandeur for the viewer. Intent has to precede action. If you don't have intent, you're just capturing luck.
Okay, so after doing this audit, I think most of us are going to find a lot of areas in the winging it column. The goal here isn't to feel bad about that, right? I mean, I feel like I'm winging half my life.
No, not at all. That's the whole point. We are all winging something. The goal is to identify one specific area where you are winging it and make that the focus of your Season 7 training arc. It gives you a clear target, it takes the shame out of the equation, and turns it into a curriculum.
That's a great transition to Section 3, choosing your track. So once you've done the audit, you need to pick a lane. The source outlines 5 specific tracks and gives a formula for picking one. Fit plus market plus energy plus friction.
And that last one, friction, is the variable that almost everyone ignores. Every single job has a suck. Every career has a hidden tax. It might be the paperwork, it might be the constant travel, it might be just waiting around for hours for the light to be right. You have to consciously choose the friction you're willing to tolerate.
Okay, let's run through the 5 tracks. Track 1 is the infrastructure and utilities specialist.
The primary outcome here is repeatable, defensible data for asset management. The friction is extremely high liability and the need for strict, almost military-style adherence to procedure. If you try to freestyle here, you get fired, or worse.
And the drill the source recommends is 10 photos of one pole.
Yeah, sounds incredibly boring, doesn't it?
It does.
And that's the entire point. Go out into the world and find a telephone pole. Take 10 photos of it. But every single photo must have a specific justifiable purpose. This photo documents the condition of the cross-arm connection. This one clearly shows the asset serial number. If you take a photo that is just artsy, you fail the drill. It trains the guardian mindset. It forces you to look at the asset, not the aesthetics.
Okay, track 2, public safety and SAR operator.
The outcome here is simple. Support the incident team without becoming the problem. The mindset is support, not hero. You are not the star of the show. The friction is all about relationships. You have to navigate intense bureaucracy, deal with police and fire departments, and operate in very high-stress, emotionally charged environments.
And the drill for this one?
It's mock radio tasking. Get a friend to record a complex command for you, something like, Drone 1, proceed to Sector Bravo, scan the northern roofline for thermal anomalies, maintain an altitude below 200 feet AGL, and report back. Can you listen to that, write it down accurately, and then repeat it back perfectly in under 15 seconds? Because if you can't communicate clearly and concisely, you can't operate effectively on an emergency scene.
Makes sense. Track 3, mapping and measurement pro.
The outcome is data that people can trust their decisions and millions of dollars on. The friction is a ton of processing time and the need for high-end computer hardware. Honestly, you'll spend far more time sitting at a computer than you will flying. The drill for this is variable testing.
How does that work?
Go map a parking lot. Then, immediately map it again, but change only one variable. Maybe you change the altitude from 200 feet to 300 feet, or you change the overlap from 80% to 70%. Process both data sets. Look at the difference in the final resolution and accuracy. If you aren't obsessed with the quality of the data, if you don't find genuine joy in staring at a dense point cloud, this track is not for you.
Got it. Track 4, media, brand, and real estate. This is the storyteller lane.
Yes, the storytellers.
Oh.
The outcome is emotion and persuasion through video and photos. But the friction here has changed dramatically in the last couple of years. It used to be the easy, fun track. Now, with the new regulations, especially in Canada, with those 2025 rules flying over people or at any kind of advertised event, is really, really hard.
Let's touch on that again, that advertised events rule in Canada.
Yeah, this is a killer for the casual pro. In Canada now, if you are flying at a concert, a 5K charity run, a street festival, basically anything that was publicly advertised, you now need a special flight operations certificate or an SFOC. And it doesn't matter if your drone is 249 grams. The rule is about the risk to the assembly of people on the ground.
So the days of just showing up to shoot the local music festival are over.
They are over if you want to be legal. The friction is now serious regulatory compliance. You have to write a detailed safety plan and get it approved for every single one of those gigs.
The drill for this track is the 12-shot list.
I love this one. Before you even leave the house, you write down a list of 12 specific shots you need to get. Then you go to the location and you shoot only those 12 shots. No wandering, no, oh, I'll just fly around and find something cool. No saving it in the edit. It forces you to visualize the final product before you execute. It kills the inefficient spray and pray method of shooting.
Last one, track 5, environmental and ag monitoring pilot.
This is the slow burn track. The outcome is documenting consistent change over a long period of time. The friction is the need for relentless consistency. You have to be willing to show up, rain or shine, every week or every month, and fly the exact same mission. The drill is called hypothesis testing.
What's that?
Before you fly, you write down a prediction of what you think has changed since the last flight. I hypothesize that the water level in the reservoir has dropped by at least 2 feet. Or, I predict the NDVI data will show stress in the northeast corner of the cornfield. Then you fly the mission, collect the data, and see if you were right. It trains your eye to see the subtle changes in the environment, not just the drone's video feed.
So you've gone through this process, you've eliminated the mismatches, and you've picked your track. You've decided, okay, for the next 6 months, I am a utility specialist. Now we need section 4, the training framework. How do we actually structure those 6 months?
You start with what the source calls the training focus card. It can be a physical index card you tape to your monitor or just a note on your phone. It has one single sentence on it. In Season 7, I am mastering vertical asset inspection workflows for the utility sector.
And then you apply the rabbit hole rule.
Which is, if a YouTube video, an article, or a piece of gear does not directly help you achieve the goal on that card, you ignore it. You don't watch it. If you're training for utilities, you have to stop watching videos about cinematic FPV mountain surfing. It feels like learning, but it's actually just a distraction stealing your focus.
The source then breaks the 6-month season down into distinct verses. Month 1 is build the system.
And you might not even do much complex flying in month 1. This is where you build your operational infrastructure. You create your file naming convention, something like YYYYMMDD client location. You build your pre-flight and post-flight checklists in the spreadsheet. You organize your gear case so you know exactly where everything is.
If you show up to a job and you have to spend 5 minutes digging for a spare SD card,
you failed month 1. If you can't find a client file from 3 months ago because you named it New Video Final 2, you failed month 1. This is the boring foundation that everything else is built on.
Then month 2 is reps with constraints.
This is where the real skill growth happens. You find a safe, empty field, and you fly the same mission profile over and over again, maybe 4 to 8 times. But each time, you add a new constraint to make it harder.
What kind of constraint?
Rep 1, you fly it normally. Rep 2, you fly the entire mission without looking at the screen, using only your line of sight. Rep 3, you switch the drone into ATTI mode so it has no GPS positioning assistance. Rep 4, you give yourself a hard 10-minute time limit to complete the entire mission, from takeoff to landing.
You're deliberately stressing the system in a controlled, safe environment.
Exactly. You're finding your personal breaking points while you're safe in an empty field, not when a $100,000 contract and your professional reputation are on the line. You're inoculating yourself against future stress.
Month 3 is the capstone, the grand finale of the season.
The capstone is your portfolio-ready mission. You invent a fake mission, but you treat it like a real high-stakes paid gig. You generate the full evidence pack.
The evidence pack being?
The flight plan, the airspace authorization confirmation, the detailed risk assessment, the flight data logs, and of course the final deliverable, whether it's a map or a video. You bundle all of that up into a single, professional-looking PDF, or a shared folder. That is your new portfolio piece. That is what you show a potential client to prove you aren't just some kid with a drone. It proves you can do the professional paperwork, not just the fancy stick moves.
And then for the rest of the season, months 4 through 6.
That's expand safely. Now that you've mastered the basics, you can start adding complexity. Now you can try to get authorization for harder, more complex airspace. Now you can go out and fly in windier conditions. But you've earned the right to that complexity by mastering the fundamentals first. You don't start your training with the hardest possible mission.
The framework also talks about some non-negotiable foundations that underpin all of this. Airspace authorization is obvious. If you don't have LANC or a waiver, you don't launch. But I want to highlight the risk brief.
The 90-second brief. I am a huge proponent of this. I don't care if you were flying completely alone in a field or with a 5-person film crew. Before the props spin, you say it out loud. It forces your brain to switch from casual mode to operational mode.
Can you give us an example? What does that actually sound like?
It sounds like this. Okay, briefing starts. Intent. We are mapping this construction field to check for drainage issues. Hazards. We have power lines to the north and an active road to the south. Boundaries. We will not cross the road under any circumstances. Our floor is 100 feet AGL. Our ceiling is 300 feet AGL. Roles. I am the pilot in command. You are the visual observer, and your only job is watching for traffic on that road. Abort triggers. If a helicopter appears anywhere in the sky, if the battery hits 30%, or if it starts to rain, we are landing immediately. No questions asked. Briefing complete. Any questions?
If you can't say all of that in 90 seconds...
Then you haven't planned the mission properly. You were just going up and hoping that nothing bad happens.
Okay, now we have to talk about the vegetables. The part nobody wants to eat, but they have to. Section 5, the boring stuff that saves you. We've hinted at the regulations, but let's get really specific about this 2025-2026 landscape.
The regulatory environment is the absolute ceiling of your career. If you don't understand it intimately, you will hit it. And in 2026, that ceiling is made of solid concrete, and there are enforcement officers waiting on the other side.
Let's start with Canada. We mentioned the big changes in April 2025.
The key phrase to remember from Transport Canada is, small drone, big consequences. For years, people operated under the assumption that under 250 grams means no rules. That loophole is now effectively closed for professional operations. If you are flying as part of any advertised event, as we discussed, the CARs, the Canadian Aviation Regulations, now require an SFOC. This is specifically to prevent hobbyists from buzzing over crowds at festivals and concerts. If you want to shoot a concert legally in Canada now, you need to be a serious operator with a serious approved safety plan.
And what about night ops in Canada?
The rule is, see it. Light it. You cannot fly at night without position lights that clearly indicate the orientation of the aircraft. That means a green light on the right, red on the left. You can tell which way the drone is pointing from the ground. It's not a legal night flight.
Okay, let's switch to the USA. The huge topic that gets all the hype is BVLOS and the mythical Part 108.
And this is where the hype train completely derails people. Everyone is talking about Part 108 as if it's going to magically allow them to fly for miles beyond visual line of sight. But the source reminds us of a critical fact. Here, in early 2026, the NPRM, the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, the comment period for it just reopened.
Which
means the rule does not exist yet. It is a draft. It's a proposal. Do not build a business model on a regulation that hasn't passed yet. Train for what is legal today, which is applying for Part 107 waivers for specific operations. Don't train for a rule that doesn't exist.
And remote ID, what's the status there?
Fully, 100% enforced. The discretionary enforcement period from the FAA ended way back in March of 2024. If you are flying for any commercial purpose without a functional remote ID module broadcasting your position, you are just begging for a fine from the FAA. It's the equivalent of driving a car with no license plate.
And night ops in the US, it's a bit different than Canada.
A little different. The rule is train it, light it 3 miles. First, you need anti-collision light strobes. They're visible for at least 3 statute miles. And second, you must have completed the FAA's recurrent online training that specifically covers night flight physiology. You can't just slap a strobe light on your drone and call it a day. You need that training certificate in your wallet or you are not legal.
The source has a couple of great case files that really illustrate why these boring details matter so much. The first one is the Twilight Resort reel.
This is a classic scenario. You're filming a beautiful resort. It's golden hour. The light is perfect. The client is ecstatic and says, just one more shot, please. So you take off again. The sun dips just below the horizon. Technically, it is now civil twilight,
Which is night.
which, according to the FAA and Transport Canada, is night. So, if you are in the U.S., do you have your strobes on? Did you complete the night training? If the answer to either of those is no, that one more shot just turns your perfectly legal operation into an illegal one. And if you crash during an illegal flight, guess what your insurance company is going to say?
They're not going to cover you.
They will not cover a dime. You are risking your entire business, maybe even your house, for a pretty sunset shot.
That's the boring stuff that saves your assets.
Exactly. It's not about being a buzzkill. It's about being insurable and professional.
Okay, another case file. The closed set myth.
Oh, this happens all the time, especially in media. A producer on a film set tells you, don't worry about it, we've rented this entire location, it's a closed set, you can fly right over the actors for this shot.
That's wrong.
That is completely wrong. Renting a parking lot does not mean you have rented the sovereign airspace above it. The federal aviation regulations, whether it's Part 107 in the US or the CARS in Canada, still apply. You cannot fly over people unless your drone and your operation meet very specific category requirements, like having a certified parachute or being under a certain kinetic energy threshold. A film producer's permission does not and will never trump the FAA. You have to be the pilot in command, the professional in the room who says, I understand what you want, but I cannot legally do that.
Dealing with that kind of pressure, the producer yelling, the light fading, it requires more than just knowing the rules. It requires a system. The source calls it the pressure operating system.
It's a mental loop you can run. When things start to go wrong or the pressure spikes, you just follow the loop. Pause, scan, speak, select down save.
Can you walk us through that loop?
Absolutely. First, pause. Unless it's an immediate crash risk, do not react instantly. Take one deep breath. If the client is yelling, just pause. Second, scan. Look away from the little screen on your controller. Look at the actual drone, the sky, the trees. Where are the wires? Where's the wind coming from? Get real-world situational awareness.
Okay.
Third, speak. Tell the client or your team what you are doing, even if it's simple. I'm holding position to assess the wind. This simple sentence buys you time and projects confidence. Fourth, select a clear course of action. The wind is too strong. We're landing now. And finally, save. Save the flight log. Save the data. Make a note of what happened.
And there's the safe state first rule.
This is critical. If you are ever confused or overwhelmed, your first action should be to climb and hover. Get the drone away from the ground, away from obstacles. Stability buys you time to think. Never, ever try to troubleshoot a complex menu setting while flying a difficult maneuver close to the ground. If you're digging in menus, the drone should be hovering high and safe in clear airspace.
Communication is such a huge part of this pressure management. They suggest using the BLUF method.
BLUF, bottom line up front. Military communication style. Don't give the client a long paragraph of excuses. Well, you see, the barometric pressure is dropping and my K-index is a little high. And no, just give them the bottom line and the boundary. The wind is gusting to 25 miles per hour. Per our safety plan, that is unsafe. We are landing. We will reassess the conditions in 10 minutes. It's clear, it's professional, and it's non-negotiable.
And the 15-second update rule.
If you're troubleshooting a technical problem and you haven't said anything out loud for 15 seconds, the client standing next to you assumes you have lost control of the aircraft and are panicking. Even if you're just rebooting the app, you need to narrate it. Rebooting the control app now. The aircraft is stable in its hover. I should be back online in 30 seconds. Keep them in the loop so they don't panic. Silence is terrifying to a client who has no idea what's going on.
This is great. We also need to talk about the difference between mistakes versus defects.
This is basic quality control for your own operations. A mistake is a one-time slip-up. You forgot to hit the record button once. It happens to everyone. A defect is a repeating pattern. You forget to hit the record button on every third flight. You fix defects not by trying harder, but by converting them into checklist items.
So the mental note, I forgot the shot, becomes a literal physical checkbox on your pre-flight clipboard.
Yes. You don't try harder. You don't promise yourself you'll do better next time. That's wishful thinking. You build a system that won't let you forget. You laminate a small card that says, "Is it recording?" in big red letters, and you stick it to your controller with Velcro. System over talent.
This all leads us perfectly to the final and maybe most important piece of the framework, Section 6, the personal flight recorder. In other words, the mission log.
This is the absolute difference between a pilot who has 100 hours of real experience and a pilot who has 1 hour of experience repeated 100 times. A proper logbook is your private personal flight instructor.
And just to be clear, we are not talking about the automatic flight logs that the drone records. We're talking about a journal.
Yes, the source calls it the 2-minute log. It's a simple habit you do in your phone or in a notebook right after the prop stops spinning. It only has 4 fields. 1, mission name. 2, what worked well. 3, and this is the most important one, what scared you or felt sloppy. And 4, one specific thing to tighten next time.
What scared you? That is a refreshingly honest question to ask yourself.
Fear is a sensor. We are conditioned to ignore it or push it down. We land after a close call and say, phew, that was close, and then we immediately try to forget about it. This log forces you to capture that data. Writing down, I felt scared when I flew behind that big tree because I lost a video signal for 2 full seconds. That is valuable data. It tells you that you need to plan your position better on the next flight to maintain line of sight.
And the word sloppy.
Sloppy is where the gold is buried. I didn't crash, my landing was really sloppy. Or, I felt disorganized. I couldn't find my spare batteries when I needed them. I stumbled over my words when I was trying to talk to the client. Admitting where you were sloppy today prevents the catastrophic failure that happens 3 months from now.
And the 1 upgrade rule is key here.
You can't fix everything at once. Don't write down 10 things to improve. Pick one. Next flight, before I take off, I will put the spare battery in my left pants pocket. It has to be that specific, that actionable. These tiny 1% increments of improvement compound into mastery over a season.
The source also suggests using tags like #light, #people, or #wind.
This is how you find your drift triggers over time. You look back at 20 of your log entries and you realize, hey, every single time I have the tag, #people in my log, I also report feeling sloppy or rushed. That tells you that you have specific psychological weakness when it comes to flying in front of a crowd. So now you can train for that. You can specifically invite your friends to come out and watch you fly just to get used to the pressure in a low-stakes environment.
Wow. We have covered a huge amount of ground here, from looking in the mirror to auditing your skills, picking a track, building a whole training framework, handling the regulations and pressure, and finally, logging the truth.
It really is a complete ecosystem for professional development. It takes the mystery and the guesswork out of getting good.
Let's try to synthesize all of this in the outro. It all comes back to that next season statement we talked about at the beginning. The source gives a template for drafting your own personal mission order.
And the template goes like this. In the next season, I am becoming a pilot who is known for your reputation, serving your audience by getting excellent at your skills.
And I want to point out the order there. It's identity first, audience second, and skills are last.
Which is the exact opposite of how most people approach it. They start with the skill. I want to learn how to do mapping. Why? For who? What's the purpose? You have to start with the identity. Who am I trying to become?
So an example would be, in the next season, I'm becoming a pilot who is known for calm, safe, no-drama operations.
That's the reputation.
Serving local construction teams.
That's the audience.
By getting excellent at creating defensible data deliverables and quality control workflows.
That's the skill. And that is a powerful professional statement. It gives you a filter for every decision you make. If a wedding planner calls you and asks if you can fly a sparkler exit at night over a crowd of people, you look at your statement. Does sparkler exit fit with calm, safe construction operations?
Yeah.
Not at all. So you politely say no. It protects your focus, your career, and your sanity.
The source material leaves us with one last provocative concept. It's called the 5C pilot identity.
Compliance, control, craft, client, and continuity. And you need all 5 to truly be a mission owner.
Are you legal in everything you do?
Can you fly the aircraft safely and precisely, even when things go wrong?
Is the data you collect or the footage you shoot actually good?
Did you actually solve the client's problem?
Can you do it all again tomorrow and the day after that with the same level of quality?
Most pilots only ever focus on craft.
And that's precisely why they stay amateurs. Without compliance and control, you're just a liability waiting to happen. Without focusing on the client and proving continuity, you're just a starving artist. You need the full stack to succeed.
And the final challenge from the source, which I think is just the perfect way to end this deep dive, is this. Your lane is not what excites you most in the moment. It is what your mind rehearses when nobody is watching.
That's the absolute truth, isn't it? If you're driving your car and you catch yourself daydreaming about grid patterns and ground sampling distance, for God's sake, be a mapper. If you find yourself daydreaming about the perfect sunset reveal shot over a coastline, be a storyteller. You have to listen to that silent rehearsal that's always playing in the back of your head. That's your real Season 7 calling you.
Stop training by mood. Go out and build your Season 7.
And fly safe. That's a wrap on today's mission, Commander. See above, go beyond, get ahead. For more training, tools, and intel, head to skycommander.ca. If you learned something new, share it, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star debrief.